Tesney.
Tesney?
Tesney.
Tesney?
Yeah.
As in Tez and knee?
Yeah. Just call me Tez.
Okay, Tez, sure.
Yeah.
How come I've never heard of it?
You never heard of Tequila TV?
Never in my whole life.
But have you ever been to Tequila before?
Nope.
Finish this sentence. Roses are red, violets are blue.
My dick is big, I'd like to bang you.
So a dirty present you'd give Tequila tonight?
A massive blowjob.
For a present, I give him this. Babies.
You want a bit of tits? There it is.
Wow, tits already.
Big white.
Tits. I like tits.
Shall I give you a little lesson?
Yeah, got
So
one.
we have body shots where young ladies, they lie across the bar, they whip cream all over them.
Do you get to finger them?
Whoa.
Are you on the hunt for some men tonight?
I'm on the hunt for some cock.
They chose to call their night Violate a Fresher, and then they go round asking everybody, how are you going to violate a fresher?
The truly objectionable sections with that, the Violate a Fresher, she's going to get raped. It's just, where do you start with that?
I think in another interview someone said something about, I wouldn't go as far as using that term, but I'd definitely violate her.
One guy said, I'm going to put in her a taxi and then she's going to get raped. Another guy said, I'm going to fist her, and things like that.
I can't even remember, but it was a really lewd term in association with unconsented anal sex.
I think the way that we reported it was the idea that this video had condoned rape.
Basically, we were appalled, as I think many people were, that it was very openly promoting sexual violence, really.
If we were to publish anything saying the police are terrible or this person is terrible, it's us agreeing with that. So for Tequila to publish a video saying, yeah, I'm going to go rape a fresher, it's essentially Tequila saying, yeah, that's okay.
As part of the Leeds Feminist Society, we decided that we had to protest against it and try and get the club to remove the night because it was a disgusting promotional video.
Jenny Pritchard of Lifestyle and Culture decided to start a petition to say that we don't want Tequila to go on anymore.
The title was Mez, Stop Hosting Tequila. So we thought we'd hand it to the manager of Mez.
The petition was calling for Tequila to be stopped as a night and to no longer be hosted anywhere, not just at Mez, but anywhere in Leeds and anywhere in the UK.
So the police were really, really supportive of the protest because they obviously thought it was horrendous as well. So they sort of helped us with the protest in terms of keeping everybody safe and things. And then they contacted us afterwards saying that they were going to review the licence and that they wanted our support. So it was a sort of partnership, which is really great for a protest. That doesn't often happen.
To be honest, licensing and West Yorkshire Police didn't need any prompting. They were very keen to look at this very fully, and they did a very, very good job.
It was the police who submitted the application for their licence to be reviewed.
I think it's saddening that it had to come to that point, but I understand that sometimes extreme examples have to be made of something in order for change to happen.
I did see it. Obviously there was the bit about violating a fresher. I think it's all in jest, personally. I mean, I don't think anyone would seriously actually violate a fresher, but it's just funny, it's just amusing.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I mean, it's for me. I watched it. I laughed. It's not something to be taken seriously, I don't think.
But I think that in the context of everything else in the video, it was still unacceptable language to be used.
Joking about rape shows a huge lack of. That's the most lack of respect you could have towards women. Why, how are you going to violate this female fresher? That's such a lack of, there's no respect there. That's just, you're a fresher, you're not even named, you're just a person who's going to be violated. It's absolutely awful.
You can look at it in a light-hearted manner. People can, I can't. That's not the place I occupy in this world. And clearly a lot of people also think like me on these things.
I don't think it's harmless to joke about rape, because if you joke about it, you remove the seriousness of it.
I think what it does do is it makes a joke of it, or it makes it seem less serious, so it becomes something that people can joke about.
Rape's not a joke, rape is a serious matter. If you're referring to someone, a black person with the N-word, that's not a joke, that's a serious matter, and this is just the same, no difference.
Joking about sexual violence, having no sense that sexual violence is something really horrendous, I think to an extent condones it, if only in the mind of potential rapists.
Well, as far as I'm aware, I don't think the police were saying, that individual in the video saying she's going to get raped was that individual endorsing sexual violence. I think what their issue was with the video itself, the entire package being something that normalised and encouraged sexual violence.
They were saying things like, are you going to rape a fresher tonight? But I don't know how many accounts of rape there have been in Leeds from students over the years, and that club has been going for, 10 years, 20 years now.
Obviously, the term rape is used very casually nowadays between friends, like just as a joke. So I don't think that they've been out of order in terms of using that phrase or that word, because in today's society the young people do use it in that way. So it's just a matter of perspective, I think.
I think it's used a bit lightly, and it's very similar nowadays to the use of the word gay in conversation. Gay is it's disassociated itself away from homosexuality, and I think when you say these days as a joke you're going to rape someone, it's always a joke. It's never, ever the truth. And it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to force yourself upon someone in a sexual manner.
This idea that guys listening to Blurred Lines or listening to this promotional stuff by Tequila and suddenly they're going to become rapists just completely underrates men. Completely. And I think Tequila's fine.
I mean, I think regardless of how it's advertised, I think that everyone or most guys sort of know that it's not acceptable to sort of rape someone or any of that stuff. Everyone knows that's just not acceptable. So
no one saying these things is actually a rapist or is actually seriously racist or wants to do any of the horrific things that people say. Yes, lad culture, whatever it is, banter isn't very nice, but attacking it doesn't actually solve anything. It's not constructive.
You can't prove for certain that somebody watched that and then went out and raped someone.
If you're talking about a direct line of evidence between that video and a sexual crime, I rather suspect not.
I don't think the individual there was to blame. What was to blame was the entire culture that was sort of coming out of that video, if you see what I mean.
If you're talking about that as a manifestation, a crystallisation, as it were, of parts of culture that are going wrong, now, has that culture led to sexual crimes? And I'd say probably yes. If we did a search for it, I think we'd definitely find a clear evidence trail. I haven't done that myself, but I bet we would.
I think that everything with Tequila is just really sort of symptomatic of, all the misogyny and the sexism and everything that goes on in clubs and everything that young women have to deal with when they come to university.
What Tequila posted, that's when it crosses the line, and that's when I say we need to look further into lad culture and not just accept it and see it as an actual problem and something that we should really assess in all seriousness.
I would define lad culture as this kind of... I often think of boys in a rugby society, heavy drinking and kind of saying very lewd things about women, and it being kind of trying to up your game and be the most laddie, do the most ridiculous, outlandish thing.
That lads culture that appeared in various forms in the 90s has particularly over the last, it's 2013 now, so particularly over the last 8 years or so, has mushroomed into something quite nasty, I think. The nasty edge to it. It's not banter, it's nasty, it's wrong, and as men we shouldn't indulge in it.
I don't necessarily think everything about lad culture is sexist, but I do think there are elements of lad culture which seem to not really be great about women, for example, Facebook pages like the Lad Bible on Facebook, or all of those kind of like things which seem to say you post a statement onto the Facebook page and you like rate women and you talk about how they were in bed and that kind of thing. I don't think that's particularly great for women.
It's a culture that says women are always sexually available, or should be always sexually available, and you shouldn't be picky. And that's kind of creepy.
Well, to me, lad culture embodies this sort of idea of excessive drinking, excessive sort of sexualisation and fetishisation of women.
It's a culture in which men are encouraged to not respect women, and there's a focus on women for sex and not respecting them as people.
When we sexually objectify women, we are, although it's a long fancy word, the clue is in the word, we are creating objects out of women. So we are suggesting that they're less than human, less than equal to men who are human. They're things to be bought and sold, and their bodies are things to be bought and sold and to be consumed predominantly for the pleasure of heterosexual men.
Viewing a woman as anything but themselves is treating someone unequally, and I think that goes with anything. If you view a Muslim person as a terrorist because they're Muslim, then that's the same thing viewing a woman as a sex object. There is no difference between that, because it is viewing it's not judging someone by their character, it's judging by some by different reasons.
I mean, I've got a feminist mum who told me amazing stories of when she was at university and everyone was very respectful of each other and blah, blah, blah. And I came to university expecting the same thing, having been at school with loads of chavs who would make comments. I thought, no, it's fine, I'll come to university and everyone will be very educated and very respectful. And then you come along and you just get all these people making jokes about women should be in the kitchen, or, women should do this, women should do that. You go to a nightclub and you have people, making jokes or touching you up or, whatever. Like, it makes you feel very uncomfortable. And I think as a boy, it's damaging because you feel like you maybe have to live up to that idea. And as a girl, it's damaging because it just makes you feel very uncomfortable. And I wouldn't say ashamed for being a girl, but it makes it quite hard to be a young woman being around so many men who are who are acting in that way. It is quite intimidating.
Sexual harassment has, I feel, since this emergence of lad culture, has got so much worse on campus. We have a Facebook group, which there's a lot of people, and I don't have exact numbers, but there's a lot of people have liked it, called Leeds Met Spotted, which is in our libraries, and you'll find that at exam time, it's exam time at the minute, you'll find exam time, it goes wild with comments. So people anonymously send in comments, and they'll say things like, oh, girl on the second floor, stand up again, I want to have a look at your ass. What is that? And there's constant comments like that coming in, constantly. But to be fair, there's also girls commenting on guys there as well, and I feel that is a consequence of lad culture. Women have almost become acceptant of it.
The manager of Tequila said that in all of his 20 years of Tequila being open, there's not been one report of sexual harassment, which I think is a horrendously worrying thing to say, because obviously sexual harassment has happened in his nightclub in the last 20 years. It's just that people don't feel like they can report it, or don't feel like they can speak out against it. So I think there is an element of people needing to feel like they can talk about it, and people being educated about what sexual harassment actually is, because I think people think it has to reach some really bad level of being forced into something before you can say, I was sexually harassed. And actually, it's just whatever sexual behaviour makes you feel really uncomfortable and you feel like you can't deal with.
I go to a club night out and I spend 85% or more of my time looking after my female friends to make sure that they're okay and they're not being subjected to this bizarre psychotic male behaviour of them stalking them practically around the club.
If you are talking to a guy and then you're kind of getting up and then there's a consensual kind of thing going on, you're chatting, then maybe if you get touched up then that's fine because it's a consensual thing between you two. There's been some communication before that point. But it really isn't consensual if, for example, I'm going up to a bar and I'm trying to get a drink and then some random person just grabs my arse. That's not right because I've not even spoken to the guy. And it is going to vary from person to person, situation to situation. I can't give you like a definite line of, yeah, this is when it's okay and this is when it's not. But you kind of know when it's okay to touch someone up and you kind of know when it isn't. I think everyone knows that.
But yeah, it's definitely happening. I mean, if there's a response to it and there's a need to marketise that, I mean, you'll see on several posters around the university campus, we are a zero tolerance university towards any sort of sexual assault. If that has to be put up there, then it's definitely happening.
I think there is a problem with the culture in sort of nightclubs in cities like Leeds.
I think Tequila Night did encourage inappropriate touching and sexual harassment because it talked about violating women, and to violate someone means, you know, you're kind of doing it without their permission, without any kind of consent. It's like an unwarranted piece of just touching a girl up and they have no say in it whatsoever. So I think it definitely did encourage that.
Have you ever been to Tequila Night?
Yeah,
plenty of times.
Many times. My usual Thursday night out, usually tequila.
So what do you think of Tequila? How would you describe it? Was it popping out? Was it a good night?
Very popular.
It's very popular. It's fun, good music. Lots of people always go. It's always a good atmosphere.
Tequila Night. What's your experience with Tequila Night?
Tequila is a night which I have in the past thoroughly enjoyed. I do think that they go sometimes a little bit far, but that's what brings people in. People like their, can't think of any word but raunchiness.
Was it a fun night? Was it a popular night?
Yeah, it was. It really was. I know people who used to go religiously
every single week, and whenever I went, it was so busy, absolutely packed. You could barely move, and everyone used to rave about it. And like you say, there were people that used to go literally every single week because it was so popular.
At Tequila Night, were men particularly forward? Were other guys particularly forward?
Not to me, no. I think that the actions of some girls, i.e. getting on the bar and getting covered in cream, might indicate that they are willing for that kind of behaviour to happen to them. I'm not one of those.
It's a weird distinction between being really pissed and therefore forward, but forward as in physically touching someone without just approaching them, trying to make them dance, grabbing them, whatever, is definitely not okay. I'm not saying it should happen forever, and maybe with big campaigns people would appreciate they can't do it, but everyone knows they shouldn't anyway. I think it's probably happened forever and happens no more at Tequila than at Halo or Fruity or anywhere else, any other club.
I've never heard of anyone, especially at Tequila, having an experience where they felt someone was being too forward with them. Basically, it comes both ways. Girls and boys, they encourage that weird slutty behaviour between each other.
I'd actually argue Tequila's better on that than most nights because it's got that implicitly sexual vibe the whole time. There's that much more awareness of where the line actually is. So if you've got girls lying on the bar, the staff would be really careful that it doesn't go too far, and it doesn't. I think it's never ever been an issue there with someone going, I feel really uncomfortable with this, what this just happened, because everyone's that bit more aware of what's happening, which isn't the case elsewhere.
I wouldn't say it was an unsafe environment. If you watch some of the Tequila videos, where the guys go around and they interview girls and guys in the queues, and you can see just as much as guys are saying stuff like that, girls are also responding the same way to questions. It's not just the guys. So
the people who go to Tequila are play acting a little bit, and that's why it's so much fun. But everyone there knows what it is, and it is a bit cheeky, but it's not harming anyone.
I knew what to expect. I was like, okay, I'm going to Tequila, it's drunk. I've seen the promotional things, I know what to expect. We can get drunk, listen to stupid music, and have a good time. I'd never had any issues with any guys who were being too creepy on me. If I told them to go away, they were a bit hard to get away, but they would eventually. I never had any problems. I don't know of any girl who has any problems, but clearly there are people who have had issues with this.
What was your experience of Tequila Night?
Tequila Night, I only went to Tequila Night once, and it isn't the kind of club that I would like to go to again, to be honest.
The night as a whole, it's not representative of Leeds, and it contains sexually offensive material, and it's incredibly sexist in the way that it runs.
Can you just describe some of the things that went on at Tequila Night?
So one of the things they do a lot is people would get on the bars and do body shots and stuff. So obviously everyone was really into that. If the girls were really drunk, they'd happily get on the bar, and then the barman would put out like shots in their mouth and on their stomach and stuff, and then whoever was around would get those free shots. So that was one of the... Yeah.
In Tequila, there were cages where women could just like dance in. I think that was a bit of objectification there, because it was kind of caging them up like wild animals as if they weren't humans.
I don't think they had the cages when we were there, but they had this like area which was like a bed almost, and it had like curtains around it. And I never went in there, but you always saw in like the Tequila videos, people just, it was always like one of the workers in Tequila would like just have a bottle and there'd just be loads of girls, and yeah.
You know, on that night, they had like a jailbait cage for freshers to go into, and it was, you know, it was known as Violate a Fresher, and you go there and you have girls and you get up on the bar and you're told if you take your clothes off you get extra tequila.
Yeah, one time when we went, I think it was like a rugby social, and it's going to the bar and I didn't see it at first, and there was just this guy full on naked, and he was stood at one end of the bar, and the barman just poured tequila all down the bar and some whipped cream, and this guy basically just body slammed into the bar and slid along, and then my friend Grace was on the other end and he slapped into her all wet and sticky. Yeah.
It's not just the promotional video, but the other promotional material is the same kind of concept.
People being told to remove their tops to receive shots, and for bar staff to allegedly grope clients.
Oh yeah, there's always a lot of girls taking tops off and bottoms off when they were on the bar doing body shots.
So like underwear.
Yeah, so they would be down to their underwear. And I think the Tequila videos are quite famous, and obviously whenever people would see the cameraman going round, girls would often like try to get the attention of the cameraman, like flash the camera and things like that.
There was always a kind of sinister, jokey vibe, like, you know, come and swallow, because it's like a tequila night, and like making references to loads of sexual things.
It was all very like sexual and just like pun on words, like, I don't know, can't think of anything, but
like fuck me, I'm a fresher and stuff.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they used to have these little cards that were on the bars that say "fuck me, I'm a fresher," and people just like go around with them like stuck on their head and stuff. So
you know, the Tequila Night does pride itself on quite a lot of, you know, slightly unpleasant sexual imagery. I think, you know, they're posters that you don't see so much anymore, but when I was in first year, you know, it was a picture of a man from the waist down with a woman's head on his crotch with the subtitle "Come and Swallow."
The whole thing is, the whole night is like marketed around like violation. It's all about like, there's no laws here. You can just, you know, do whatever you want to other people. And I think maybe that marketing strategy is not being accepted very much anymore.
This isn't appropriate. We're in the 21st century. This should not be a night that is allowed in Leeds.
In the hearing today, I think they both presented their cases very well in a lot of detail. And I think what was gratifying was that they looked at the case not so much on quite narrow technical legal grounds, but they looked at it, what it meant more broadly to the city as a whole, to our culture, to how we present ourselves in gender relations and sexual relations in 2013. And that was from West Yorkshire Police, and then from licensing. It's immensely gratifying. I think they've really earned their public salaries through this. I think it was good, and we got the result we wanted. I think we got a fair result and the right result.
I think now having tequila in your venue, it equates to having possible licensing laws being broken, and yeah.
I think with tequila and the tequila video and all of his lad culture online and everything, that's offending an awful lot of women. And so, you know, for it to be censored seems like, you know, it's going with the majority, it's going with almost a consensus, you know, an unsaid consensus vote. A lot of people have voiced how unhappy they are, therefore it makes sense to do something about it.
I don't think that freedom of expression, I think if it's a dominant group in society having freedom of expression, like the male managers of Tequila and Mez, that's not really freedom of expression for everybody, is it?
I've had not one tweet or email saying, oh, you know, it's this free speech, councillor. You should lay off. Not one person has said that to me.
So do you think that promotional video and things like that should be banned?
Yeah, completely. Because it's not, because, yeah, okay, that video, you can choose whether to consume it or not, but that video is symbolic of what that night stands for. And if you, yeah, okay, you can choose whether to go to that club night or not. But as a young woman, if you go to a club night where they're playing similar music or that attracts a similar crowd, if you go there and you come across a group of lads who have been to Tequila, they're going to be thinking, oh, it's right to treat women in this way, especially young lads. You know, if they're 18, they're just out of school and they come to university, they go to Tequila, they realise that it's okay to treat women in that way. They could then go to another club night. Someone who is avoiding Tequila might go to that club night but still run into the same blokes.
I'm very proud of the fact that we have freedom of speech. We're very tolerant of very diverse views. But there are still lines.
I think everybody should have the right to say where their line is, and no one should feel like they can't feel confident enough to say, you just crossed my line. And obviously everybody's lines of tolerance are going to be different, aren't they? But in terms of Tequila, obviously it crossed loads of people's lines, and that meant that, I guess, people came together and something changed.
I don't think that closing the Mez Club down has prevented rape or prevented that kind of like sexual abuse, because things like that didn't really go on there on a police basis, on a legal basis. It was all generally consensual. And this one video has made out that it's not, and it will encourage that behaviour, and I don't think that it did.
The protest gathered so much steam because it was something to do. People got like really worked up about it. Most of them had never been inside. People go there, people work, like, it's someone's business when it comes down to it. People at the same university, just as clever, went along, had a brilliant time, or a bad time and didn't come back. How people feel they can make so much fuss over somewhere they haven't been based on a transcript of a video they haven't even seen. It's insulting.
Yeah, well, the minority is offended by that, and the majority of people don't take offence, but the problem is that when the minority get involved in sort of making an issue out of it, then most of the majority who saw it as casual don't really care, because in the first place they saw it as a joke, so it's still a joke to them. So there's no sort of opposition for the ban it, and the people protesting against it, everyone else is just like, whatever.
I was horrified to see a friend of mine tweet the day later saying, oh, they're only, you know, what's all this deal about people getting uptight about, you know, rape comments, they're only joking. And I'm thinking, well, I personally wouldn't want to put something out on my public Twitter profile essentially saying, oh, rape, you know, it's only a joke. So, you know, some people obviously it's not affected them at all, but I think that for a lot of people, maybe seeing that Tequila has been, you know, well, Mez has been closed down because of Tequila, and Tequila is now struggling to find somewhere else to go, so essentially the night has been closed. I think the fact that the police have acted on that, or, you know, Leeds City Council have acted on that, will make people more wary of what they do decide to publish, whether that be Facebook or Twitter or personal blogs or YouTube.
We certainly wouldn't want Tequila UK as a promoter to just move on to another venue in the city, and our understanding is that other venues have been warned that if they, you know, promote the same night, they might come under the same kind of scrutiny as Mez Club.